And folks, want to let you know, if it's your first time here at Modern Day Debate, we are a live debate channel, neutral, hosting debates on science, religion, and politics. So we don't take any stances ourselves as a channel. We hope you feel welcome no matter what walk of life you are from, Christian, atheist, Muslim, you name it. We're glad you're here. And with that, we're going to kick it over to Muslim Apologist for his opening statement as well. Thanks for being with us, Muslim Apologist. The floor is all yours.
All right. Thank you, James, for that opening. So, by the way, just to be clear, how many minutes do I have?
You have 12 minutes, and I forgot to mention, I did want to mention, thanks for tuning in with us, as it's somewhat early in the morning there, as Muslim Apologist is actually in Malaysia tuning in, so we appreciate you making that work with your morning schedule. And like I said, 12 minutes, the clock is set for your opening, Muslim Apologist.
All right. Thank you, James. Assalamu ala man ittaba'a al-huda. I begin his opening statement with all absolute praise be due to the one true God of Abraham and his last messenger, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin, wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmain. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Amma ba'd. So the topic today is Islam dangerous to the world? We must first understand what the word dangerous entails. The police shooting a criminal who is about to kill women and children is a dangerous act. This, however, does not mean that it is bad or immoral. Violence and dangerous actions can be used to establish the greater good with a wise purpose or hikmah. To also imply that 1.6 billion people around the world are dangerous or have the tendency to be dangerous is a gross misrepresentation of the faith, redundant, and is clearly Islamophobia. We must also be clear that the goal of Islam is to lead all of mankind towards Islamic peace, or Pax Islamica. Muslims are taught to always adhere to the middle path, or wasatiyah. This is characterized neither by liberal nor radical religious thought, but through the promotion of tolerance, balance, equality, consensus, reformism, and in short, the summum bonum of all things that take the middle path to materialize as the khairul ummah, or the best of people. In order for these things to be achieved, it is recognized that the Islamic ethos, or the Watan Sha'um, the primary objective of the implementation of Islam is the realization of its benefit or maslahah to mankind, which concerns their affairs both in this world and in the hereafter. So this framework of objectives, which are based on benefit, maslahah, or the wise purpose, hikmah, is known as the maqaasid, ash-sharia, or the objectives of Islamic law after its implementation. In French, it's known as finalité, in German, Zweck, in Greek, telos. So the fulfillment of Islamic law covers the protection and preservation of these 5 fundamental objectives, which are faith, life, intellect, lineage, and wealth. Now, these values are universally transcendent and are seen as absolute requirements to an individual's survival and spiritual well-being, to the extent that the destruction or collapse of any of these objectives would precipitate chaos and the demise of the standard order in society. Now, about faith, the first objective. Islam values the maintenance of faith in God and the societal way of life based on this principle. Okay. To achieve this, Islam ensures that any threat to this value is nullified before it causes a danger to the Muslim community as a whole. This would include freedom of religion, a safe and secure environment which would allow Muslims to practice their faith without any threat, getting rid of Islamophobia as it is currently rampant in Western nations, and all these things are done while ensuring that other religions are also allowed to practice their respective faiths in peace and harmony in a Muslim-dominated society. And as any other self-respecting nation would do, Islam also takes preemptive steps as a countermeasure to ensure that this way of life is not undermined. This legislation is no different from how the United States, for example, treated Edward Snowden, Joseph Ahmed, Jonathan Pollard, Julian Assange, when they pose a threat to the integrity of the government. In light of achieving the greater good in this context, how then is Islam a danger to the world? Now the next objective, life. Islam values the protection and value of human life. Islam ensures that peace prevails throughout the world via any means that can achieve this aim. Islam is most certainly not a danger to the world if it values human life, because according to the words of the Quran itself, to kill one human is as though you have killed all of mankind. The purpose of justice in Islam, which includes the hard laws, is to ensure that crime is controlled and that the person involved can be reformed or otherwise be taken out of society so that he or she will no longer be a threat to anyone else. Criminologist Edwin Sutherland published The Principles of Criminology in 1939. Sutherland argued that the criminal behavior was learned, not an inherited trait. So exposure to crime, either through relatives or peers, gave a youth frustrated with his or her social status a choice to pursue crime. These bad influences could be lessened by good relationships with parents, teachers, an employer, or the community, values which Islam promotes. How then does this prove that Islam is a danger to the world? Now the next objective, intellect. Islam cherishes and preserves the intellect, which is why throughout Islamic history, we see various advancements and achievements in the development of science and technology in the Muslim world, right up until the beginnings of Western colonialism and the fall of the Caliphate. At the same time, Islam also preserves and protects the intellect by forbidding alcoholism. On average, roughly 40% of inmates who are incarcerated for violent offenses were under the influence of alcohol during the time of the crime. True, alcohol may give people happiness, but that happiness is temporary. Not only does it lead to criminal activities, but it also leads to other vices which ipso facto jeopardize or badly affect the other values that I've mentioned earlier. So tell me again how Islam is a danger to the world. Now the next objective, lineage. Marriage is deeply rooted in natural human instincts. We crave romantic affection. This is a natural human inclination. So sociologists call this pair bonding, and studies have proven that couples who are married are happier than non-married couples. Islam advocates the family unit and ensures that the lineage of mankind continues throughout the centuries. Towards this end, Islam ensures that the laws are in place to curb negative values that are a threat to the integrity of a family unit. And I'm not just referring to the Rainbow Club. Marriage requires sacrifices from both sides. Liberals are not interested in sacrificing their individual freedom. In the West, the concept of marriage is dying. People are barely getting married, and according to Pew Research, 70% of people will not choose to get married. Now you contrast this with Islamic law, which preserves marriage and the family. Islam does recognize individual freedom and other values, but it doesn't focus on them alone, because there are more important values for a society and family to function. So again, how does this make Islam a danger to the world? The last objective, wealth. Islam encourages the preservation and maintenance of wealth. Islam does not frown upon capitalism. At the same time, Islam also encourages elements of socialism and welfare in the form of Islamic thief of zakat and sadaqah of charity. Islam also implements taxations which are just and fair to run an administration of a state. Islam also recognizes that being poor and needy leads to instability and chaos in society and tries to remove this by banning gambling and interest. This is consistent with what has been attested to by Western criminologists today, that a general disorder in the neighborhood leads to increased antisocial behavior and eventually to serious crime. So Islam does this without the need to rely upon secularist, humanistic values which are contrary to the Islamic economic and finance system. The implementation of an Islamic economic system has ensured success for Muslim nations even until today. We have Islamic bonds of Sukuk and the Islamic banking system which have existed in Malaysia and in many parts of the Muslim world for over 30 years. So again, how does this support the position that Islam is a danger to the world? Now to summarize all this, Islam is basically a realistic and a religion of pragmatism. It does not see the world purely from dystopian or utopian lenses, because the real world that we live in is neither this nor that, but it could be both in various situations. So in light of this, Islam does use force wherever and whenever it's necessary in order to achieve a wise purpose or hikmah behind every action and in the context of events. Now, it cannot be stressed enough that context is important in order to evaluate the every action of any Islamic ruling or values as recorded in the hadiths or in Islamic history. Muslims are always taught to always strive for the middle path and are never thought to be extremists on either the left or the right of the political spectrum of things. Islam is a holistic way of life, which is the end result from the values derived from maqaasid, as I've mentioned before. And this is one of the goals of Islam as well, to build a relationship between man and God, hablum minallah, and a relationship between man and man, hablum minan nas, in order to eventually move towards to and achieve Pax Islamica. So I cherish these values that Islam clearly promotes. Therefore, in conclusion, and in my opinion, Islam is a danger to the world only if you are a degenerate, a career criminal, a selfish or a lawless person without care for society, or a very, very mentally disturbed interviewer. And with that, I end my opening statement. Thank you, James, for the opportunity to participate.
Thank you very much for that opening statement.